Well, Don here with another blue collar study, and I'm going to have to keep half an eye on this phone to make sure it continues to record since it's half broken. I'm going to start in Matthew 28 or Matthew chapter 8 and verse 28. Matthew 8 and 28. And when he was come to the other side of the country of the Gergesenes, there met him two possessed with devils, coming out of the tombs, exceeding fierce, so that no man might pass by that way. And behold, they cried out, saying, What have we to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God? Art thou come hither to torment us before the time? And there was a good way off from them a herd of many swine feeding. So the devils besought him, saying, If thou cast us out, suffer us to go away into the herd of swine. And he said unto them, Go. And when they were come out, they went into the herd of swine. And behold, the whole herd of swine ran violently down a steep place into the sea, and perished in the waters. It's kind of funny how the violence there, the violent activity is by something that's possessed of devils. The first thing that I notice here is that the Bible in 65 AD knew something that science, falsely so called, only started to discover apparently in the 1970s. Now, interestingly enough, they say that the internet has all the answers and this and that, all the information you want. And that's really not true. Many times when I try to look up something, it's amazing how little information there is. And it's very hard to try and nail down when medical science started to discover how closely related the anatomy of pigs were to humans in several respects. But it really didn't start until like the 1970s. They were messing with monkeys, they were messing with baboons and canines and several other things before they really discovered the pig thing. But medical science first tried to use organs from monkeys and baboons for transplants into humans, and those failed. Then in the 1970s, they discovered that heart valves from pigs were used and were usually successful, oddly enough. We now know that everything from the lungs to the liver to the kidneys, heart, eye corneas, and several other pig organs either are being transplanted into humans or have the best chance of a successful transplant surgery. The pig heart, for example, has already been successful, or at least partially successful, in that it's been transplanted twice into humans. And I don't know if this guy is still living or not, but there was a 57-year-old David Bennett 2 years ago that received the heart of a pig as a heart transplant. They say generally those hearts will last 10 years. I'm not sure what the actual time period is, but apparently they have enough data behind that they pretty much have nailed down that you can take a pig heart, put it in a human, and it's supposed to last about 10 years. But the devils, generally we call them demons, so you know what we're talking about, but the Bible calls them devils or unclean spirits of Matthew 8 want to go into the pigs. They want to go from men into pigs. Like if they were in pigs, they'd want to go to men, obviously. If they were in men, they'd choose to go to pigs. And the Bible back in 65 AD had this connection way, way, way back there. It's not just, the Bible is not a religious book like people say. It's the only real science book, and it's always way ahead of modern science. So the demons, the devils, want to go into pigs from men, which just happens to have many similarities to men in their organs and even in their brains. Oddly enough, science is now using pigs in the study of human neuroscience, since pig brains resemble human brains in anatomy, in growth, and in development, much more than other animals. How did the Bible get the man-bear-pig connection? How did the Bible get the man-pig connection way back in 65 AD? See, it's because the creator of the universe, the one that created the pigs, the one that created men, the one that created all things, also created a book, and he knew what that connection would be. And of course, the demons, the devils, the unclean spirits, they were smart enough to know the connection. So that pig heart, like I said, is so close that medical surgeries have transplanted two so far into humans, as far as I can tell from research. Now, look at Acts chapter 5. Acts chapter 5. I'll read 1 through 4. But a certain man named Ananias with Sapphira, his wife, sold a possession and came back from the price, or kept back part of the price, his wife also being privy to it, and brought a certain part and laid it at the apostles' feet. But Peter said, Ananias, why hath Satan filled thine heart to lie to the Holy Ghost and to keep back part of the price of the land? Whilst it remained, was it not thine own? And after it was sold, was it not in thine own power? Why hast thou conceived this thing in thine heart? Thou hast not lied unto men, but unto God. So you have demonic activity is specifically given from the heart of man. See, why hath Satan filled thine heart? Now, someone could say, well, the heart means, the inside of, the individual. Well, yes, it can mean the inside, but notice how the Bible specifies in verse 3, fill thine heart. And in verse 4, in thine heart, it specifies the heart. Specifically, where this heart affects the thinking of man. See, the heart, it's not just an organ inside of a man. That heart is connected to the mind. It's associated, it's connected with the thinking. Because notice that after Satan filled their heart, that it affected their thinking. It affected their mind. It affected their actions after Satan had filled their heart. Philippians chapter 2. Pages. Philippians chapter 2. And look at verse 5. Let this mind be in you, which was also in Christ Jesus. Let this mind be in you. So, when demonic activity, when you have unclean spirits, when the devil comes and is allowed to get your heart, he'll also get your mind and your thinking. But you're to let this mind be in you. Philippians 2:5. You're to let God have your mind. You're to let God have your heart. Medical science now knows that the human heart has neurons. Now again, the Bible, 2,000 years ago, and farther back, if you read what the Bible has to say about the mind and about the heart and about your thinking, the Bible already knew way back then that the heart was connected with the mind. And medical science has recently discovered that the heart does have neurons and also maintains memory. So if something was to happen with your heart and you got a heart transplant from another individual, You can look up the testimonies of individuals that get things like that, and all of a sudden they're like, I have this real hunger, I have this real this craving for onions, and I never liked onions before. I don't understand what this craving is all about. Well, you've got this heart from this other individual that has neurons, it has memory, and it's more than just a heart. It's more than just a blood valve, right? And the heart affects the mind. So Satan wants your heart. If he can get to your heart, then he can get to your mind. Satan wants your heart, and so does God. And whoever gets to your heart, whoever you allow to have your heart, also gets your minds and your actions. Now let me look at Proverbs 23. Just a short verse here. Proverbs 23. And verse 26. God says, "My son, give me thine heart, and let thine eyes observe my ways." So you give God your heart, and then your eyes will observe his ways. It affects everything. And I also want to say here that, we're talking about the demon-possessed individuals and this whole discussion of demonic activity. And the question comes up: How did 1 to 2,000 unclean spirits, or demons, if you want to call them that, how did 1 to 2,000 unclean spirits wind up in a single individual? We find that in the Bible. And I think it's a mistake to try and answer that by physical means and say that, well, it has to do with the physical size of the demons. No, we're not dealing with physical things. We're dealing with spiritual things. Now, it is true that these demonic entities are likened unto winged creatures, and they're likened, and their types are like mosquitoes. Their types are like flies. Their types are like different things, maybe a dragonfly, different things like that. That is true. But their physical size, that has nothing to do with their physical size. I believe that they would be the size of a man. They don't have to be the size of a fly or a mosquito to get 1 to 2,000 of them in an individual. If you're thinking on physical terms, if they were limited to physical terms, yeah. But we're not dealing with something physical. We're dealing with something that's spiritual. So in a spiritual phenomenon, the demons would simply possess the man and possess each other, layer by layer by layer. You understand? They would possess the man and they would possess each other. And they would just layer themselves inside the individual. And go to Mark 5:9 here real quick. Mark 5:9. They just would layer themselves inside the individual, possessing each other. Mark 5, let's start in verse 8. "For he said unto him, Come out of the man, thou unclean spirit," singular. Verse 9. "And he asked him, What is thy name? And he answered, saying, My name, singular, is Legion, plural, for we are many, plural." So you're dealing with, and notice you have the number 2,000 in verse 13, and it's unclean spirits. So he identifies himself in the singular, but also in the plural. Why is that? Because possessing each other, they're as one. They're like one entity, all wrapped up together, but at the same time, they're plural. So my name, singular, is Legion, plural, for we, plural, are many, plural. It's singular and yet plural. And that's the answer to that thing. It has nothing to do with physical size. It has to do with the fact that they're possessing the man, and they're layer upon layer. They're possessing each other, and they're not limited by space. The man could have eventually wind up with, who knows, 10,000 unclean spirits inside of him. They just have to come in and just possess each other. It's the same size. Let's see, we're on the same basic subject here. Let's look at Matthew 7:6 on something. I'm just hitting a few things. Maybe you get an answer here to something that you've been looking for. Matthew chapter 7 in verse 6. You've heard this your whole life. Lost atheists have heard this their whole life. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. And there's even a comic strip that's called something like casting your pearls, or casting your pearls before swine, something like that. So the world, the lost world, the religious world, is very much familiar with this verse, although they wouldn't know where to find it. And what is this all about? What is this all about? Well, if you ask the average individual, a religious expositor, a Christian expositor, they'll tell you, well, casting your pearls before swine, that means wasting your time by offering something that is helpful or valuable to someone who does not appreciate it or understand it. And that's wrong. That's wrong. Give not that which is holy unto the dogs, neither cast ye your pearls before swine, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and rend you. Notice that which is holy. That which is holy. Well, obviously it's talking about individuals, casting your pearls before something, before people, before persons, individuals. What is that? Well, that which is holy is anything that belongs to God. Anything that belongs to God. 1 Corinthians 3. 1 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 17. If any man defile the temple of God, him shall God destroy. For the temple of God is holy, which temple ye are. So this is talking about a saved individual. A saved individual. And that is, so if give not that which is holy unto the dogs. What are dogs? Unsaved Gentiles. And that swine, we just read how that was connected with unclean spirits in type. So that which is holy, how do you give that which is holy? Your converts. Because they're likened unto pearls as well as being holy. Now let me look at one more verse here. While we were in 1 Corinthians, I should have read one more verse. 1 Corinthians 7:14. 7:14 says, for the unbelieving husband is sanctified by the wife. It's talking about there's at least one saved individual in the marriage. And the unbelieving wife is sanctified by the husband. Else were your children unclean, but now are they holy. So again, this is an individual, a person that belongs to the Lord, or set aside for the Lord, or is at least sanctified unto the Lord. And of course, within that context, they're not saved. But your converts here, your converts belong to God. And if you lead a man to salvation, then neglect to disciple him, help him to grow, lead him in the right direction, he could wind up with unsaved dogs. He could end up joining Jehovah's Witnesses. Don't think there aren't saved people in the Kingdom Hall, or in other, Campbellites, unsaved Campbellites. If he doesn't know his Bible, he could very easily, if you don't disciple him after he gets saved, he could very easily be tricked by these unsaved dogs, these lost religious individuals, or he could be fooled by pigs as a demon-possessed, charismatic, demon-possessed Pentecostal, other demon-possessed Christian groups. They're out there. Well, can a Christian be demon-possessed? Did you already forget Acts chapter 5? Ananias and Sapphira, they were saved individuals. They were saved individuals, but Satan had filled their heart. They were demon-possessed Christians. And there are groups out there. I've met many Christians who were they clearly had unclean spirits, and they were Christians. And you just want to get away from them. But your convert is not only that which is holy, but your convert is the pearl that will get trampled underfoot, then be in opposition to you. You lead them to the Lord, and a couple years down the road, you run into them again. Oh, hi, hey, how's it going? And they're standing there with maybe an NIV or New American Standard. And they're now a Bible corrector. Maybe now they're pushing tongues or baptismal regeneration or who knows what. Maybe they're knocking on your door with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, what a nightmare. They've been trampled underfoot, and you let it happen because you didn't disciple that individual that you led to the Lord. And they're your pearl. And you're not to cast that which is holy. You're not to cast your pearls before swine or dogs, lest they trample them under their feet and turn again and render you. They're now on the other side of the battlefield coming after you when they should be on your side of the battlefield, shoulder to shoulder with you, helping you, fight the battle. They should be, they should be winning souls themselves to the Lord and gaining spiritual grandchildren for you. You get rewarded for that, just like they do. Look at 1 Peter chapter 2. Let's start in verse 2. As newborn babes, and there'll be some double application here. Remember, many places in the Bible you'll have a dual doctrinal application. Some of this will apply to tribulation saints, to Jews in the tribulation, but this will also apply directly to Christians in the church age. Notice this, as newborn babes. That's a new birth. As newborn babes, desire the sincere milk of the word, that ye may grow thereby. So these pearls, these individuals you've led to the Lord, that which is holy, they're to get the milk of the word. You're to make sure they get the milk of the word so they can start to grow, that ye may grow thereby. If so be that ye have tasted that the Lord is gracious, to whom coming as unto a living stone. So Jesus Christ is likened unto a pearl. He's the firstborn among many brethren. He is likened unto that living stone. And we're Christians. We're born of God, and like Christ, we're also to be like living stones. Disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of God and precious. Ye also, as lively stones, see, like Jesus Christ, if you're born again, newborn babes, ye also, as lively stones, are built up a spiritual house and holy priesthood, to offer up spiritual sacrifices. They're not physical, Roman Catholics. To offer up spiritual sacrifices acceptable to God by Jesus Christ. Wherefore also it is contained in the Scripture, Behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect precious, and he that believeth on him shall not be confounded. Unto you therefore which believe, he is precious. But unto them which be disobedient, the stone which the builders disallowed, the same is made the head of the corner, and the stone of stumbling, and a rock of offense, even to them which stumble at the word, being disobedient, whereunto they were appointed. But ye are a chosen generation, a royal priesthood, and holy nation. See, some of this applies, there's a dual doctrinal application to Israel, some of it's to Christians, a peculiar people, that you should show forth the praises of him who hath called you into darkness, and that praise is there. You can connect that with the calves of the lips as a spiritual sacrifice and praise. I'll throw that in extra. But notice that these lively pearls, these are born-again individuals. They're living stones because they've been born again. And so you have, give not that which is holy, your pearls, your converts, unto dogs, unsaved individuals, unsaved like JWs and such. Neither cast ye your pearls, that which is holy, your converts, before swine, demon-possessed individuals, saved or lost, lest they trample them, the demon-possessed or the unsaved dogs trample them under their feet. They don't love them. They don't take care of them. They trample them. And then the pearl, your convert, turns again and rends you. They rend you. And that's the correct interpretation on that famous passage there, which also has to do with swine. So I think that about wraps it up there. I hope you got something. And remember to pray for me and my wife. We're, the landlords just came over again next door, and they were looking at the house that's kind of junky next door. And it could be in another, 2 years or so that they plan on developing this area. That's what could happen. So if you'd please pray about that situation, that God would work through that transition, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.